The air in the deep cave was cool and still. It smelled of wet stone and old earth. Kim Jun carefully brushed dust from the wall with a soft tool. His headlamp cut through the darkness, shining on strange marks in the rock. He was not supposed to be here. The official dig was 2 valleys over, looking for old tools from the Bronze Age. But June had followed a hunch, a pattern in local stories about a shining rock fall from long ago. He had used his vacation time and his own money for this private trip. His brush hit something that was not stone. It made a soft metallic sound. Ting. June leaned closer. He cleared more dirt away. A smooth, gray surface appeared. It was a perfect circle about as wide as his hand. It was set deep into the cave wall. It looked like metal, but it was cold, colder than the rock around it. When he touched it, a faint blue light moved under its surface, like a sleeping fish in a dark pond. His heart beat faster. This was not from any human time he knew. He took out his camera and started to record. Day 7. I have found an anomalous artifact. Composition unknown. It appears to be. The blue light under the surface flashed. A low hum filled the small cave. It was a sound June felt in his teeth. The circle of metal melted away. It was not a door. It simply stopped being there. In its place was a hole. Inside the hole, a perfect, dark crystal pyramid sat, small enough to hold in one hand. June forgot to breathe. He reached out, his fingers trembling. He picked up the pyramid. It was warm. The moment he lifted it, the cave wall changed. Lines of bright blue light spread out from the hole, racing across the rock like cracks in ice. They formed shapes, patterns, a map of stars he did not know. Then, a figure appeared in the air. It was made of light. It had a shape like a person, but tall and thin, with no face, only a calm glow. When it spoke, its voice was not a voice. It was music and bells and a deep whisper, all at once. The sound came directly into June's mind. To the fauna of the genetic preserve designation 889 Alpha. The figure chimed. This is a declaration of reclamation and purification. This world is a Zorvax collective genetic archive. You are the biological wardens, meant to maintain the flora until our return. June fell back, landing hard on the cave floor. He clutched the pyramid. He could only stare. The cycle of reclamation is 6,000 of your planetary orbits. The wardens are to be reset. The archive purified for a new cycle. This message marks the start of the final count. We will return. You will be erased. This is the covenant. The star map next to the figure pulsed. A series of symbols flashed, dots and lines that hurt June's eyes to look at. Then, in the center of the map, numbers appeared. They were counting down .00:00:0600:00:05. June's scientific mind, frozen with shock, kicked in. A countdown to what? To their arrival? It's starting now. 00:00:00:400:00:03. He scrambled for his satellite phone. The signal in the cave was bad. He had to get out .00:00:0200:00:01. He ran, stumbling over rocks, the pyramid burning in his hand. He burst out of the cave mouth into the bright Mongolian sunlight. He looked at the phone. No signal bars. .00:00:00:00. The pyramid in his hand grew very hot, then very cold. The light figure appeared again, right there in the open air. It was fainter now, like a ghost. It repeated the same message, the same chilling words. We will return. You will be erased. Then it pointed, not at June but at the sky. A single beam of light shot from the tip of the crystal pyramid, invisible in the daylight but clear on June's camera screen. Pointed straight up, and then it was gone. The pyramid was just a dull, dark crystal again. The star map on his camera playback was frozen. The countdown had reached 0. 6,000 years ago, a laugh bubbled up in June's throat, but it was not a happy sound. It was the sound of pure disbelief. He looked from the dead pyramid to his phone, then up at the empty, blue, peaceful sky. 6,000 years? he said aloud. His voice was rough in the dry air. You sent a notice? And you gave us 6,000 years to get ready? He sat down heavily on a rock. The fear was still there, a cold knot in his stomach. An alien race had just announced it was coming to wipe out all life on Earth. But the paperwork, it seemed, was massively, hilariously late. He dialed a number. It rang twice. Lee Sumi speaking, answered a crisp, calm voice from his phone.
Somi.
It's June. June? You're supposed to be on a mountain looking for old pots. Did you find a dinosaur instead? Her tone was light, teasing. She was his friend from university, now a big-shot analyst for planetary security. I found something better, June said. He took a deep breath. I found their eviction notice. What? An alien eviction notice. For Earth. They say they own it. They say they left it as a seed bank. They say we're just the animals meant to look after the plants. And they're coming back to reclaim and purge us. There was a long, long silence on the other end of the line. June, Sumi said slowly, carefully. How much sun have you had? Are you drinking enough water? I'm serious. I have it on video. A crystal, a projection, a star map. Called itself the Zorvax Collective. It said the return cycle was 6,000 years. He paused. The countdown on the message just ended. Sumi. It ended right now. Which means another pause. He could almost hear her brilliant mind working, shifting from my friend is crazy to my friend has found a Category 0 artifact. Which means Sumi finished, her voice now dead serious and professional. They announced their war 6,000 years ago, and they are, by their own schedule, incredibly late for the appointment. Exactly, June said. He looked at the pyramid in his hand. What do we do? He heard the sound of Sumi's fingers flying over a keyboard. You stay right where you are. Do not move. I am sending a secure team to you. Do not talk to anyone. Do not post anything. Do you understand? I understand. Good. June? Yes. An eviction notice, she said, and he could hear the first hint of the same strange feeling he had, not just fear, but a deep, bewildered amusement at the sheer scale of the mistake. Post-dated by 6,000 years. That might just be the worst customer service in the history of the galaxy. She hung up. June put the phone down. He sat on the rock, under the vast sky, holding a message from a time before pyramids were built in Egypt. A message that had finally been delivered. He waited. And for the first time, he smiled. It was a thin, tired smile. The Zorvax Collective, whoever they were in for a very big surprise. They were not coming back to a world of simple wardens. They were coming back to a world that had, a very long time ago, read the fine print and started building something else entirely. Lee Sumi stood in the middle of the Unified Earth Defense Network's main watchroom. The room was quiet, filled with the soft glow of many screens. Maps of Earth and space floated in the air. The people at their desks spoke in low voices. It was a calm place. It was made for watching comets and space junk, not for alien messages. But now everything had changed. The crystal pyramid from June sat on a table in the center. Wires and sensors were stuck to it. Scientists in white coats moved around it, their faces tight with worry. Director Park Day stood next to Sumi. He was a tall man with gray hair. He looked at the pyramid like it was a strange bug. You are sure? Park Day asked. His voice was low. The material is not from our solar system, said one scientist. The energy it used is not like anything we have. The message is very old, at least 6,000 years old, from the decay rate in the crystal's core. And the countdown? Park Day said. Was a timer, Sumi answered. She pointed to the data on a screen. It was set to end when the pyramid was first touched after all that time. June triggered it. The 0 hour was the moment he picked it up. Park Day rubbed his face. So, a very old, very advanced race. They left a note saying they would be back to kill everyone. And they said it would take 6,000 years for them to get here. That is what the message says, Sumi said. Before anyone could say more, alarms began to beep, softly at first, then louder. A red light spun on the ceiling. "Director!" a young analyst called out. Her name was Choi Yoonji. She was in charge of watching the edge of the solar system. "We have a new signal, a massive energy signature, just beyond Neptune's orbit. It was not there an hour ago." All the screens in the room changed. The maps of Earth vanished. Now they showed the outer solar system. A tiny, brilliant white dot pulsed near the cold, dark planet Neptune. "Magnify," Park Day ordered. The image grew. The dot was not a dot. It was a ship made of what looked like glowing crystal and white light. It was shaped like a long, sharp spire. It was beautiful and cold. It shone like a small star. Every person in the room stared. The quiet was heavy. The only sound was the beeping of machines. Then, the main screen of every computer, every public billboard, every television and phone on Earth, all of them went black for 1 second. In the UEDN room, Sumi's personal phone screen went black. Park Day's tablet went black. Yoonji's monitor went black. Then, the light being from June's cave appeared on every single screen at once. It was clearer now. More real. It still had no face, but its light form was calm and straight. It held itself with a terrible, slow dignity. A voice filled the room. It did not come from the speakers. It appeared inside their heads. It was like many bells ringing together, and underneath, a deep hum that made their bones shake. "People of Earth." The voice was in no language, but everyone understood it. "We are the Zorvax Collective. We have returned to the Genetic Archive designation 889 Alpha, as declared in the Covenant. Your time as wardens is over." Sumi's hands were fists at her sides. She watched the being of light. "You are the unintended fauna. Your development was an error, a mistake in the garden. You have spread beyond your purpose. You have messed with the plants. You have changed the soil. You must be removed for the archive to be pure again." Park Day's mouth was a thin line. "They think we are weeds," he whispered. "Do not resist. Your weapons are like sticks and stones to us. Your cities are ants' nests. Your civilization is a flash in the dark. We have seen true empires rise and fall in the time it took your light to reach our ship." The being paused. It seemed to wait for its words to sink in. It expected fear. It expected panic. "This world is you are here by our allowance, and that allowance is now revoked. In accordance with the Covenant of Purity, we have come to reclaim our genetic archive. Resistance is illogical. Your civilization is hereby terminated. You have one of your days to surrender your major population centers. The purification will then begin." The message ended. The light being faded from the screens. All the screens returned to normal. For 3 full seconds, the UEDN watchroom was perfectly silent. No one moved. The only sound was the quiet hum of the computers. Then, Yoonji spoke, her voice small. "Director, what do we do?" But Park Day was looking at a different screen. A screen showing the global internet reaction. The first few seconds after the message had been raw shock. Posts of "What was that?" and "Is this real?" and "Is my TV broken?" But then, it changed. It started with a single post on a social media site. It was a picture of the Zorvax Herald. Someone had drawn a silly hat on its head. The words under it said, "My landlord when I'm 5 minutes late with the rent." The post was shared 1,000,000 times in 1 minute. Another post showed a famous painting of a general on a horse. The general's face was replaced with the light being. The horse was a small, angry-looking dog. The word said, "We are here to purify you. Fear our fluffy steed." Someone made a short video. They used the herald's own grave words. "Your civilization is hereby terminated." But they put the words over a video of a kitten falling asleep in a teacup. The global reaction was not terror. It was not screams or prayers. It was laughter. It was mockery. It was a tidal wave of jokes, memes, and sarcastic comments. Park Day watched the screen. He saw the fear in his team's eyes start to change. It mixed with confusion, and then, slowly, with a kind of disbelief. "They think we're primitive," Sumi said, looking at the same screen. They think they're talking to cavemen who just discovered fire. They have a ship that can travel between stars, Yunji said, pointing to the image of the crystal spire. Their technology is magic to us. Why is everyone laughing? Park Day turned away from the internet screen. He looked at the worried faces of his team. He looked at the image of the alien ship, hanging in the dark like a sharp, bright tooth. They are laughing, Park Day said slowly, because the Zorvax made one very big mistake. What mistake, sir? Yunji asked. They announced a war, Park Day said. A strange, calm smile touched his lips. It was not a happy smile. It was the smile of a man who has seen a terrible error. But they sent the announcement to the wrong address. And they are 6,000 years late for the fight. The world was laughing, but Director Park Day could not laugh yet. He stood in a quiet room with Lee Sumi and a few other top advisors. On the table between them, a small device played the Zorvax message on a loop. The bell-like voice filled the silent space. Your civilization is hereby terminated. Park Day turned it off. Enough, he said. He looked at the people in the room. They have given us 1 day. They expect us to give them our cities. They expect us to kneel. What else can we do? Asked a man from the military. We have seen their ship. Our best telescopes cannot even understand its surface. It moves in ways that break our physics. They are gods compared to us. Are they? Sumi said. She leaned forward. They said we are wardens. They left a garden. They are coming back to check on it after 6,000 years. Does that sound like gods to you? It sounds like a very slow, very careless landlords. A few people smiled, but it was a nervous smile. It does not matter what we call them, the military man said. They have power. We must answer. We must show them we are serious. We should mobilize our fleets. Show them our strength. And if our strength is like a child's toy to them? Park Day asked quietly. What if they swat our fleets away like flies? Then we have shown our only hand, and it is a weak one. He stood up and walked to a window. Outside, the city was calm. People were going to work. Cars moved on the streets. The sky was blue. It looked like any other day. But he knew, on phones and computers, the world was still making jokes about the alien light being. They do not understand what we are, Park Day said, almost to himself. They think they are talking to the people from 6,000 years ago, the people who just found that crystal in the cave. They have no new information. He turned back to the room. An idea was forming. It was a dangerous idea. It was not a military idea. It was a different kind of idea. We will answer them, Park Day said. But we will not show them our weapons. We will not shout. We will not beg. We will show them their mistake. How? Sumi asked. We will talk to them like they are a company that made an error, Park Day said. We will be polite. We will be calm. And we will be very, very amused. An hour later, Park Day stood on a simple stage. There was no flag behind him. No soldiers. He wore a plain, dark suit. Cameras from every nation were pointed at him. This was being sent live to the whole world, and to the Zorvax ship. He took a deep breath. The red light on the camera glowed. To the Zorvax Collective, he began. His voice was calm and clear. We have received your message. In homes and bars and streets, people watched. The jokes slowed. They listened. We acknowledge your historical claim to this planet, Park Day said. The artifact you left has been found. We have seen your covenant. He paused. He looked directly into the camera. His face was serious, but there was a light in his eyes. It was not the light of fear. However, he continued, there seems to be a problem with your schedule. In the UEDN room, Choi Yunji held her breath. You gave a notice of return. You set a time of 6,000 years. That was very generous. Park Day's mouth twitched, just for a second. But in that time, things have changed. You left a garden. But a garden, if you do not tend to it, grows on its own. Or someone else tends to it. He held up a tablet. On it was a picture from June's cave. The star map. The countdown at 0. Your wardens did not just watch the plants. We learned from them. We changed them. We bred new ones. We did not know we were waiting for you. We thought this was our home. And when you think something is your home, you take care of it. You fix the roof. You plant new trees. You make it better. He changed the picture. Now it showed the Earth from space. But not the old blue and green ball. This was a live map. It showed the networks of light from cities. It showed the green bands of forests in places that were once desert. It showed the gentle, glowing lines of orbital platforms that cleaned space debris. You speak of purifying the archive, Park Day said. His voice grew a little harder. But the archive is not just seeds in the ground anymore. It is in our labs, in our seed banks, in our DNA libraries. It is in the heart of every tree we planted to stop the dust storms. It is in the coral we regrew in the warm oceans. We did not ruin your garden. We became the gardeners. He put the tablet down. You say we must surrender our cities. You say our civilization is terminated. Park Day finally allowed himself a small, dry smile. It was not a friendly smile. It was the smile of a man who is about to win an argument with facts. We must respectfully decline. The notice period is over. The lease, as we understand it, has expired. We have been paying the rent with our sweat and our work for 6,000 years. We own the place now. He paused, letting the words hang in the air. We do not want a war. We did not start this. You did a very long time ago. But you are late. Too late. We suggest you check your calendar. And then, if you are willing, we suggest you talk. Not as owners and pests, but as fellow gardeners. The conversation is open. The choice is yours. He gave a small, polite nod. Thank you. The camera light went off. The broadcast ended. For a moment, there was silence across the world. Then, the noise returned. It was not just laughter now. It was cheers. It was the sound of people slapping tables in approval. It was a global sigh of relief, mixed with a surge of pride in the Uedian room. The team burst into applause. Yoonji was grinning. Sumi let out a long breath she did not know she was holding. But Park Day did not smile. He walked back into the quiet room. He looked tired. Do you think it worked? Sumi asked, coming in after him. It was not about working, Park Day said. It was about telling the truth. We showed them we are not afraid. We showed them they are wrong. Now we wait. What do we wait for? Sumi asked. We wait to see if they are reasonable beings who can admit a mistake, Park Day said. He looked out the window again, his eyes searching the sky. Or if they are just bullies who only understand one thing. Far away, at the edge of the solar system on the Crystal Spire ship, the Zorvax herald received the message. It saw the human leader's calm face. It heard the polite words. It felt the tone of amusement underneath. For the first time in its very long existence, the herald felt something new. It was not anger. It was not fear. It was a deep, unsettling confusion. The fauna were not screaming. They were not fighting. They were correcting. It did not understand. The covenant was clear. The purification was the law. Yet, the intended targets were pointing out an error in the paperwork. The herald turned its light form toward its masters deep within the ship. A low, chiming conversation began. They had not planned for this. They had only planned for fear. On Earth, people went back to their day. The jokes continued, but there was a new feeling now. It was a feeling of unity, a feeling of strength. They had looked at the gods from the stars and told them they had the wrong address. They waited to see what the gods would do next. Confusion was not an emotion the Zorvax herald understood well. Its kind operated on logic, on the clear laws of the covenant. The purification was a simple, clean process. Arrive. Announce. Watch the primitive fauna tremble and despair. Then, erase them and begin the reset. The fear of the wardens was part of the process, a proof of their unworthiness. Earth had offered no fear. It had offered amusement and legal arguments. This was illogical. It was a flaw in the sequence. Deep within the crystalline spire of the matriarch ship, the herald presented the problem to the collective's local mind. Lights pulsed in complex, silent patterns. The decision was swift. The sequence must continue. If the fauna did not understand the threat must be demonstrated. A show of power would reestablish the proper order. It would replace their illogical amusement with the correct primal terror. The target was chosen with clinical dispassion. A small, rocky island in the Southern Ocean. Human maps called it Bouvet Island. It was cold, barren, and uninhabited. Perfect place for a demonstration. The Herald would vaporize it, turning rock and ice into superheated steam. The message would be clear: your world is ours to reshape. Your defiance is dust on Earth. In the orbital command center called the Nest, Choi Yoonji watched her screens. Her job was to monitor Earth's orbital environment, satellites, debris, the delicate web of weather-scrubbing platforms. She saw the energy spike from the alien ship the moment it happened. A deep, resonant hum began to build on her sensors, a frequency that made her teeth ache even through the data feed. A pinpoint of brilliant white light glowed at the tip of the Zorvax spire. It grew brighter, fiercer. "Contact," Yoonji said, her voice flat and professional over the UEDN network. "The Zorvax ship is powering a primary energy weapon. Trajectory analysis suggests a target, Bouvet Island. It's uninhabited." In the main UEDN room, Park Dae and Lee Sumi watched the feed. The military man from before was there, his face pale. "They're going to blast it off the map," he said. "Should we try to intercept? Our orbital defense lasers would do nothing but make pretty lights on their hull," Park Dae said, his eyes fixed on the screen. "No. We let them try." The pinpoint of light became a beam. It lanced out from the alien ship, a spear of pure destruction crossing the solar system in a flash. It screamed into Earth's atmosphere, a silent, terrifying line of white fire aimed at the lonely island. Yoonji watched it come. Her fingers flew over her console, not to fire weapons, but to activate a standard planetary management protocol. Code-named Aegis Sprinkle. It wasn't designed for war. It was designed for meteorite dust mitigation. Across the upper atmosphere, thousands of small, reflective platforms hummed to life. They were like mirrors the size of dinner plates. They shifted, angling themselves not to block the beam that was impossible, but to intersect its path with a pre-existing energy web. This web was a byproduct of the global climate stabilizers. It was a harmless mesh of ionized particles, used to guide rainfall and break up dangerous hail. It was essentially a very advanced sprinkler system cover. The Zorvax beam hit the edge of this web. The result was not an explosion. There was no clash of mighty forces. The deadly, concentrated beam of particle energy did not hit solid rock. Instead, it hit a diffuse, shifting net of charged atmosphere. The beam diffused, scattered. Its coherent, destructive power was broken into a million harmless strands of light. These strands danced and shimmered, interacting with the planet's magnetic field. On the surface of the Southern Ocean, near Bouvet Island, the sky lit up, not with fire but with color. Waves of emerald green, deep violet, and burning crimson rippled across the heavens. A silent, breathtaking aurora swirled where there should have been a cataclysm. The ice of the island glittered under the spectacular light show, untouched on the Zorvax ship. The Herald observed the result. The island was still there. The sensors detected no destruction, only a sudden, massive atmospheric ionization event. The energy signature of their weapon was gone, dispersed, used for decoration. Confusion deepened. In the nest, Yoonji let out a slow breath. She checked her readings. Atmospheric energy dispersion at 99.8%. No significant thermal change on the surface. Minor uptick in ozone production, within safe parameters. She tapped her comms. UEDN command, this is orbital control. The precipitation has been successfully managed. No collateral damage. Her choice of words was deliberate. She spoke as if reporting a weather event. Park Dae allowed himself a small, tight smile. He nodded to Sumi. Send the prepared response. A pre-written, automated message was beamed directly toward the Zorvax ship. It was formatted like a bureaucratic notice. ATTN, Zorvax Collective Vessel, RE, Unpermitted atmospheric/geological modification. Our sensors have detected an unauthorized high-energy discharge incident in the protected region of the Southern Ocean Sanctuary, Grid AO7. Planetary Regulation Code 889 Alpha, Section 12C. Planetary surface integrity strictly prohibits unlicensed orbital bombardment, excavation, or mass displacement events. Any further attempts at geological alteration require a permit from the Solar System Conservation Bureau. Permit applications must be filed at least 60 Earth days in advance and include a full environmental impact report. Please cease all unlicensed activity. Sincerely, Terran Planetary Stewardship Network. Back on the ship, the Herald received the message. It did not understand the words permit or bureaucracy, but the meaning was clear. Its demonstration of ultimate power had been categorized as a minor infraction, a paperwork error. The humans had not even recognized it as an attack. They had treated it as a nuisance, like a neighbor making too much noise. The logical foundations of the Herald's mission were cracking. The sequence was broken. The fauna were not wardens. They were not even defiant warriors. They were stewards, and they were telling the rightful owners to fill out a form. The Herald turned its light inward again. The pulsing lights within the ship's core were no longer calm. They flickered with agitated, discordant patterns. The purification could not proceed until the target acknowledged the threat. Fear was the key that started the engine of their cleansing technology. Without it, the process was inert. For the first time, a flicker of something akin to doubt entered the Herald's consciousness. It looked at the blue and green world below, now wrapped in its own beautiful, harmless aurora. The garden was not just preserved. It was curated, managed, and protected by the very weeds they had come to purge, and the weeds were laughing. Kim Jun sat in a quiet room in the UEDN headquarters. The crystal pyramid was gone, taken by scientists. He felt useless. He was an archaeologist, a man of dust and old stories. Now the oldest story of all was happening above the sky, and he could only watch. Lee Sumi found him there. She brought 2 cups of tea. She placed one in front of him and sat down. "You look lost," she said. "I am," June said. He took the tea but did not drink it. "I found the note. I started all this. But now, I do not know what my part is. The soldiers and the engineers are in charge now." Sumi shook her head. "No. They need you now more than ever. The engineers can tell them how our machines work. The soldiers can plan defenses. But you are the only one who understands what they meant to find. You are the only one who sees the garden they left behind." June looked at her. "What do you mean?" "They think we are weeds," Sumi said. "But we are not. We are something else. Director Park needs to know what they see when they look at us. He needs to know what they wanted. You are the expert on their intention." Just then, Park Day himself walked into the room. He looked tired, but his eyes were sharp. "She is right, Dr. Kim. We intercepted new scanning waves from their ship. They are not looking at our weapons. They are scanning the whole planet. Deep scans. Biological, geological, atmospheric. They are studying us like a strange new bug. They are checking their work," June said softly. The idea clicked in his mind. He was an archaeologist. His job was to understand why people from the past did things. This was the same, just a very distant past. They left a seed vault, a genetic archive. They are coming back to see if the seeds are still good, and to clear out anything that might harm them. Park Day nodded. "Sumi, pull up the full planetary scan results. The deep ones. Show him." Sumi tapped on a tablet. The wall of the room lit up. It showed Earth, but not as a picture. It was a complex web of data. Lines of light showed ocean currents. Swirls of color showed forest health. Numbers flowed showing air purity, soil chemistry, genetic diversity indexes. June stood up and walked to the wall. His eyes moved over the data. He saw what the Zorvacs were seeing. "Here," he said, pointing to the Sahara Desert. On the map, it was not just yellow. A vast network of green lines crossed it. The Great Green Wall. We stopped the desert from growing. We turned dust bowls into new forests. For them, this is not a city or a weapon. This is garden maintenance. He pointed to the oceans, the artificial reef projects, the krill repopulation zones. They are not for fishing. They are to fix the broken parts of the ocean. We are repairing the ecosystem. He moved his hand over the northern lands. The permafrost stabilization grids. We are not digging for oil there anymore. We are using gentle heat to keep the frozen ground from melting and releasing old gases. We are preserving the soil. He stepped back. He looked at Park Day and Sumi. His voice was full of wonder. They are not seeing an infestation. They are seeing a restoration project. A very advanced, planet-wide restoration project. They left a broken garden. We fixed it. We did more than fix it. We improved it. Park Day stared at the map. They said we messed with the plants. They said we changed the soil. We did, June said, a smile finally touching his lips. It was the smile of a scholar who has solved a great puzzle. But we did not mess it up. We healed it. Their sensors must be showing them that the planet is healthier, more balanced, and more genetically diverse than it was 6,000 years ago. Their archive is not just intact. It is thriving. Because of us. In the Crystal Spire, the Herald was receiving the same data. The scan results were complete. The logic was inescapable. The planet's biosphere was not degraded. It was enhanced. The atmospheric toxins from early industry were gone, scrubbed by vast, silent machines in orbit. The great forests were larger. The ocean acidification was reversed. The mass extinction event that had begun in the Warden's early days had been halted, then pushed back. New species, resilient and strong, had been introduced. The fauna had not consumed the garden. They had become its nervous system. They had become its hands. They were not separate from the archive. They were its active curators. The Herald's core directive was to preserve the purity of the genetic archive. Purity was defined as the intended balanced state. The data said the current state was not just balanced. It was optimal. More optimal than the mathematical models from 6 millennia ago. Purge, the current active curators would be to damage the archive. It would be an act of destruction, not preservation. This was a paradox. The Covenant did not account for the Wardens becoming master gardeners. The Herald had no protocol for this. Its light form flickered, unstable. The pulsing lights of the collective mind behind it were a storm of conflicting logic paths. On Earth, Park Day understood. They have a rule, he said. A prime directive. Protect the archive. We have made the archive better. If they follow their own rule, they cannot touch us. We are not the problem. We are the solution. But will they follow it? Sumi asked. Or will they decide their pride is more important than their rules? That, Park Day said, is what we are about to find out. They have to make a choice. Admit their mistake and leave. Or break their own highest law to save face. He looked at June. You have done your part, Doctor. You showed us what they are. Now we must see what they choose to be. June looked at the data on the wall, the beautiful, complex picture of a living, healed world. A world he and all of humanity had worked so hard to fix. He thought of the Zorvacs, alone in their silent ship, staring at the same picture. For the first time, he felt not fear, not amusement, but a strange pity for them. They had come all this way to be the heroes of their own story, only to find that the story was already over, and someone else had written a better ending. The silence from the Zorvac's ship stretched for hours. On Earth, the world held its breath. The jokes had slowed. The mood was tense, waiting. People watched the skies, not with terror, but with a wary curiosity. In the Udin Command Center, the mood was all business. Park Day did not believe the silence was surrender. Pride was a universal thing. A being that saw itself as a god would not simply fly away after being laughed at. They will try one more time, he said to his team. His voice was calm but firm. They have to. Their whole purpose is the purification. They cannot just leave. They will try to force us to play their game, to make us show fear. Lee Sumi watched the main screen. The alien ship was still there, a cold jewel near Neptune. How? Their big weapon just made pretty lights. They will come closer, a senior military advisor said. They will send something we have to fight, something that looks like a real threat, to make us shoot first. Park Day nodded. Exactly, and we must not give them a war. We must give them a cleanup. He turned to Choi Yoonji on the orbital feed. Yoonji, status of the scavenger fleet. Yoonji's face on the screen was all focus. All T-class vessels are on standby, Director. The scavengers are ready. But sir, they are trash collectors. They have tractor beams and nanite recyclers. They are not warships. Good, Park Day said. That is exactly what I want. When their threat arrives, I want it handled. Not destroyed, processed, like industrial waste. As if on cue, alarms chimed softly. The sensors showed new movement from the matriarch ship. 100 smaller points of light detached from the main spire. They shot toward Earth, fast and sharp. Contacts, Yoonji called out. 100 small craft.
Métallique composition.
Energy signatures consistent with weapons. ETA to Earth orbit. 3 minutes. The military advisor tensed. Sir, our orbital defense platforms can target them. We can take out at least 50 before they reach. No, Park Day interrupted. Do not fire a single weapon. Not one laser. Not one missile. Yoonji, activate protocol green cycle. The scavengers are cleared for debris collection. The advisor stared. Debris collection? Those are attack drones. And they will become scrap metal, Park Day said. Let them come. The 100 Zorvax warrior constructs streaked into Earth orbit. They were beautiful and deadly, shaped like sharp silver leaves. They glowed with a pale blue light. They moved in perfect, silent formation. A school of glittering fish in the dark sea of space. Their orders were simple. Approach the major human orbital infrastructure and begin targeted, precise destruction. Force the humans to retaliate. Initiate the war cycle. They expected to see human military vessels rise to meet them. They expected panicked energy fire. They did not expect the T-class vessels. The scavengers were not beautiful. They were bulky, practical, and covered in grappling arms, collector pods, and broad, flat panels. They looked like industrial tugs. They lumbered into position, not forming a battle line, but a loose, workmanlike net. The lead Zorvax construct targeted the nearest scavenger. It fired a thin beam of cutting energy. The beam hit the scavenger's hull and splashed harmlessly across a thick layer of ablative ceramic plating, the same plating used to shield against micrometeorite impacts during debris cleanup. The scavenger did not fire back. It extended a large, claw-like tractor beam emitter. A wide, pale blue field of energy washed over the Zorvax construct. The construct shuddered. This perfect flight path broke. It was caught not in a crushing grip, but in a powerful, stabilizing field. It was being held like a struggling animal in a net. From another scavenger, a different beam, this one a shimmering gold, licked out, touched the trapped construct. This was a nanite disassembler beam used to break down derelict satellites safely. Where the gold light touched, the silvery metal of the alien craft simply unwove. It dissolved into a cloud of base particles, which were then sucked neatly into a collection pod on the scavenger side. Point 1 Zorvax warrior construct was gone. Not destroyed in battle. Not shot down. It was harvested. The other constructs attacked in earnest. Beams of light shot across the orbital zone. They scarred the heavy hulls of the scavengers, but did not penetrate. The human vessels worked with slow, methodical precision. Tractor beams grabbed constructs. Nanite beams broke them down. Kinetic pusher beams, normally used to nudge space junk into a better orbit, were used to shove clusters of constructs into each other, disrupting their formations. It was not a battle. It was a demolition and recycling project. Yoonji's voice was calm over the comms as she directed traffic. Scavenger Unit 4, you have a cluster at your 10 o'clock. A gentle nudge toward Unit 7, please. Unit 7, be ready to catch and process. On the command screen, Park Day and Sumi watched the silent, surreal scene. The beautiful, deadly alien crafts were being swatted, grabbed, and disassembled. One by one, they vanished into the industrial maws of the workhorse vessels. "We are not fighting them," Sumi whispered, amazed. "We are tidying up." In less than 10 minutes, it was over. 97 of the 100 constructs had been processed. The remaining 3, damaged and disoriented, retreated at high speed back toward the matriarch ship. The scavengers did not pursue. They simply began consolidating their collected material, sorting the exotic alien alloys into different storage bins. Yunji's report was dry. "Orbital space is clear, Director. Minimal collateral damage. We lost some exterior plating on 3 scavengers. Repairs are underway. Analysis of the collected material is promising. The Zorvax alloy is highly efficient. We estimate a 15% improvement in our own hull durability if we can replicate it. A very successful resource recovery operation." Park Day let out a long, slow breath. He looked at the stunned military advisor. "You see, we did not go to their level. We made them come to ours. They offered a war. We offered a recycling program." On the Zorvax ship, the Herald witnessed the entire event. It saw its warrior constructs, the cutting edge of its purification vanguard, being treated as inconvenient litter. They were not honored in battle. They were not even hated. They were collected, sorted, and filed away as useful raw materials. The paradox was now complete. The Covenant demanded purification, but the tools of purification were being used to improve the Archive's defenses. The act of war was feeding the enemy's industry. Every logical pathway in the Herald's mind led to a dead end. The humans had not fought. They had gardened. Even in orbit, they were just pulling weeds and composting them. The Herald's light, once so steady and sure, dimmed, turned away from the viewing portal. The great crystal spire of the matriarch ship, which had hung for days like a dagger poised at the heart of the solar system, began to move, turned slowly. Its brilliant light softened, not in power, but in intention. It was not advancing. It was reorienting. For the first time, it was facing away from Earth. In the UEDN, a sensor technician called out, his voice confused. "Director, the matriarch ship. It's turning. Its main engines are powering down to standby. Its trajectory, it's not an attack vector. It's a holding pattern, a distant one." Park Day walked to the main window, looking up at the sky though he could not see the ship. The tension in the room broke, not into cheers, but into a deep, collective silence of disbelief. They had done it. Not by being stronger, but by being something the Zorvax had no way to understand. They had not won a war. They had cancelled it. The Zorvax ship did not leave. It moved to a quiet, distant orbit around the sun, far from Earth. It was like a guest who had come for a fight but now stood awkwardly in the hallway, not sure what to do. On Earth, life began to return to normal. But the normal was different now. There was a new feeling in the air. It was not pride or victory, but a kind of quiet confidence. Humans had looked at a threat from the stars and had simply refused to be threatened. Director Park Day knew it was not over. A silent enemy was still an enemy. A confused god was still powerful. They needed to end this not with more displays but with a conversation. They had to turn the cancelled war into a new beginning. He called Kim Jun and Lee Sumi to his office. "They are still there," Park Day said. "They are waiting, but I do not think they know what they are waiting for. We need to give them an answer. A final one. Should we send a ship? A weapon?" Sumi asked. Park Day shook his head. "We send an invitation. We invite the Herald here to talk." June looked surprised. "Here? On Earth? Is that safe?" "It is the only way," Park Day said. "They see us as things on a screen, as data points. They need to see us as people. They need to walk or float in the world we have made. They need to feel the air we cleaned, see the green we grew." It took 2 days of careful, repeated messages, polite, clear invitations. Finally, a single word came back from the great ship. "Agreed." The meeting place was not a military bunker. It was a glass-walled observation room at the Global Seed Vault, built into a mountainside in a cold northern land. Outside the windows, a vast, green forest stretched to the horizon, a forest that had not been there a century before. Park Day, Sumi, and June waited. There were no soldiers, only a single table and 3 chairs. On the table was a pot of tea, 3 cups, and a simple data slate. A light appeared in the center of the room. It grew, taking the form of the Zorvax herald. This light was softer now, less blinding. It hovered above the floor, its bell-like form pulsing slowly. It did not speak. Park Day bowed his head slightly. "Herald, thank you for coming. Please join us." The herald did not sit. It had no body to sit, but it lowered itself until its light was level with their faces. "You have broken the sequence." Its voice chimed in their minds. The sound was not angry. It was tired. "The Covenant has no path for this." "The Covenant was for a different time," Park Day said gently. "You left gardeners behind. You just did not know that is what they were." June reached for the data slate. He turned it on. "You came to check on your archive." He showed an image of the cave, the crystal, the star map. Then he swiped. The next image was the planet now, covered in green, with clean air and full oceans. "This is the archive. It is not just preserved. It is better. Because we loved it as our home, not as a storage box." The herald's light flickered over the images. "You changed it. The soil. The air. We healed it," Sumi said. She pointed out the window at the forest. "You see that? 100 years ago, that was bare rock and dying trees. Acid rain from our old mistakes had killed it. We fixed the rain. We brought new soil. We planted every tree by hand and by machine. It took generations. Is that not what a warden should do? Guard and mend." The herald was silent for a long time. It turned from the window to the people. It seemed to really see them for the first time. Not as primitive beasts, but as small, determined creatures with careful hands and watchful eyes. "You were not meant to advance. You were meant to stay simple. To keep the seeds safe, not to plant new forests." "And if we had stayed simple," Park Day asked, "would the archive be safe? Would the great storms and the dying oceans have spared it?" "We did what any good caretaker does. We adapted. We solved problems." He poured tea into 3 cups. He pushed 1 cup slightly toward the herald. It was a gesture, not an expectation. "The war is over," Park Day said. "It ended before it began. You came for a garden that does not exist anymore. In its place is something else. Something stronger and more beautiful. We do not want to be your enemies. We want to be your successors." June spoke softly. "You left us a library. We read all the books. Then we wrote new ones. We can give you the new books. The history of the last 6,000 years. Not a story of war, but a story of repair." He placed the data slate on the table. On its screen, the words glowed. "What we did while you were away. A steward's log." The herald extended a tendril of light. It touched the surface of the data slate. Information flowed, not in a burst, but in a slow stream. It saw the rise and fall of empires, yes, but it also saw the first laws to protect a forest. It saw the first machine to clean a river. It saw the global pact to save the bees. It saw the slow, stubborn, miraculous project of fixing a broken world. The light of the herald deepened, changing from white to a gentle, shimmering blue. The chiming in their minds was different. It was the sound of understanding, vast and slow. "The archive is safe," it chimed. "IT is more than safe." The gardeners became part of the garden. The tools became part of the art. This was not foreseen. It withdrew its light from the slate and turned to Park Day. "The covenant of purification is void. It applies to a world that is gone. There is nothing here to purge, only a legacy to acknowledge." The word hung in the air. Acknowledge. It was not surrender. It was not a treaty. It was a statement of fact. "Then what will you do?" Sumi asked. The herald's form shifted, looking out the window once more at the vast, living green. We will observe. We will learn. The collective has not seen this. A preserve that evolved its own preservers. It is a new data point in the universe. Perhaps a better one. It began to fade, its light growing translucent. We will watch from a distance. The conversation is open. You have the data slate. Use it to speak, if you wish. And then it was gone. The room felt suddenly empty and very quiet. The three humans sat for a moment, not speaking. The untouched cups of tea had gone cold. Finally, June let out a long, shaking breath. Is that it? Park Day looked out at the forest, at the clear sky beyond. That is it. They are not our masters. They are not our enemies. They are distant relatives who just found out the family home is in better hands than they thought. He picked up the cold tea and drank it anyway. It tasted like the end of one story and the very quiet beginning of another, far away, in its distant orbit. The Zorvax matriarch ship powered down its weapons completely. It turned its great sensors not toward Earth with a threat, but toward the universe with a question. It began to listen, for the first time, to the gentle, steady heartbeat of a world that had learned to heal itself on Earth. The sun set over the new forest, painting the green leaves in gold and red. No announcements were made. No parades were held. People simply went about their lives, under a sky that was once again their own, guarded not by weapons, but by the simple, profound act of care.